Day. All right. All right, so we'll go and give everybody here just a minute to hop on with us, and then we're going to go ahead and get started as per usual with our news, all that good stuff. So, what are we looking like on futures? Are we there yet? Dumpy. Okay, looking good. Yes. Can you tell I swung puts? Um, it's a good start. It hasn't broken support, but definitely with the right trajectory here. Hoping to see a gap down tomorrow, but right now I wouldn't say quite sitting flat, um, but uh, definitely a lot of pressure from the downside here. So, all right. Yeah, I had a really good weekend. Kids came over. We had a really good time. Um, didn't think about stocks for a while, so yeah, I had a good time. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get to our news here. All right, where'd it go? There it is. Hopefully, you guys had a good weekend as well. All right. I love the way this one starts. So as per usual, we're gonna recap last week. We did see the S&P down for the week. And as I do this, I'm gonna go and give you guys a look. A lot of people do not look at the weekly chart. You gotta look at the weekly chart. So anyway, we saw the S&P down 2.9%. We saw the QQQ down 3.25%. You can see big move to the downside there. Russell 6,000 or 2,000. Damn, I just upgraded that one. 3.58% to the downside. And then you had the Dow Jones as well with a 2.24 skid to the downside. Almost all index were winning until Friday. So let's see here. Crypto experienced a small price regression on Friday. The majority of cryptos were down between negative or down 2% to 5%, following in the footsteps of the growth-centric Nasdaq composites loss, down 4%. Bitcoin was down 37, down to 37.9K today, and Ethereum was down to 2770. A couple big bulletins here. Oil 429, 22 is the headline here. So uh, hold on one second. That's really funny. They put the wrong title on the wrong article. Never mind. I'm gonna skip that one. But Thursday earning roundup. So the final day of big tech earnings on Thursday was not without its faults. Amazon detailed its post-pandemic slowdown and inflation woes in its report and lost 12% in trading. If you guys were trading with us last week, we made a huge bag on Amazon. So. We also saw Intel and Twitter drop off. Had to tell investors that it overcalculated the total number of members because of a double glitch. Thankfully, they weren't already bought. The green spot was Apple, multi-billion dollar beat. Let's see. Facebook, PayPal, and Pinterest put investors in a happy place on Wednesday, even though it was just for a few hours. All companies reported beats and moved to the upside. And speaking of earnings this week, guys, we take a look at stock twits here. Good evening, everybody. So we're going to look at the earnings calendar because we're wrapping up the rest of earnings week. Can see we still have a pretty big influx, hitting 389 companies on Thursday, or May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Big C, BXB, Chegg, some of the more notable ones on Monday. But Tuesday, we've got AMD, Starbucks, Airbnb, Lyft, Pfizer, all coming in hot. BP, MicroStrategy. So definitely a lot of earnings opportunities there. Mara, Etsy, eBay, Moderna, which I think Moderna might be a really interesting setup there. Uber, Twilio. So we have a really chock full earnings week. And then we slow down. Next week, we will be slowing down just a little bit. You have over 900 companies reporting on Friday of next week. Most of them really smaller companies, obviously. And then you taper out, and you're pretty much done with the uh, big cap earning seasons that we see. So, aside from that, the economic calendar here, we have May 2nd. So we have the IHS market manufacturing that's coming in on Monday. ISM manufacturing index, that's high impact data right there. Construction spending. May 3rd, factory orders, JOLTS, job reports. Um, and then looks like relatively high impact data coming in at the end of the week for the entirety of April. So we're definitely going to have some, I think, some decent volatility. The one thing that we may see, that usually the dynamic here would be that we might see slow conditions, but with earnings, I think there should be plenty of volatility to go around. So, uh, aside from that, guys, that's really about it as far as top headlines and stuff like that. What's up? Nice, cool. If you guys are on YouTube or whatever, make sure you guys, if you guys don't mind, make sure to leave a like. Or if you know anybody who wants to tune in with us, uh, make sure to leave a reshare. I actually forgot to let everybody know I was live in the Discord, so I'm gonna go do that now. All right, so a couple of things that we're going to be watching for this week. Um, First of all, earnings is coming up, so you guys know the deal. We're definitely going to be taking a good long look at some potential earnings plays. But we also have some pretty good setups with Facebook. Facebook's looking for a potential bounce off the $200 level. Here's the deal. So I took out a speculative Microsoft put, and we may see a small gap down, i.e., maybe 198.50. And I think that's really going to be the key market. 198.50, that's your hourly 500-day HMA, which, if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. It's just a really high impact moving average. So I got my eyes peeled on Facebook, both to the up and the downside. And one of the reasons why I like it to the upside, for me, and then also for anybody who's new, is because it gives you a clean entry. You don't really have to mistake too much, and then you also have a gap to target to the upside. So we will be watching Facebook, and if you take this gap out and just kind of look at it almost as a potential hourly cup and handle, which it can be, then we might see a decent move to the upside. Monday might be the reprieve with not having a lot of high impact data, um, and with earnings coming in. So, um, anyway, that being said, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on Facebook, both up and down. Again, 198.50 to the downside, and I will post all these charts in the PotterStocks Discord. So if you guys are Discord members, you guys can check it out there. So. Um, Oh yeah, good to see you guys too. I know I have the camera on. I haven't had it in a long time. Um, but it stopped working one day and then I just was never able to get it back on. This video is sponsored by Koya smoothies. No, just kidding, it's not. Those people don't know me. Um, All right, so again, I like good clean levels. As far as the setup is on the daily time frame. So one thing I want to note here, all right, is, and it's always important to make sure that you're looking at these higher time frames, um, is the, and this is why I love the whole ribbon indicator, because oftentimes, and you can see right where that wick is at. on Facebook right here. That is right where the HMA is at, as well as our daily pivot point. So this is a extraordinary play for me, both to the up and the downside, because it is with these wicks, both to the up and the downside. It just offers some really interesting trading setups. So I definitely dig in Facebook going into next week. We did swing, and I will say, after kind of by thinking about it for a minute, I think we might be able to get away with a little bit on Microsoft, but I may have jumped the gun here. And one of the things that I was not banking on, but anticipating really was a gap down. Now we'll find out between now and this is why it's important to make sure that you guys are looking at these higher time frames. Microsoft has a wonderful setup, right? Microsoft has a gap and the nearest right now it's sitting on a support. If you go back right over here to the two, I'll mark these out so you guys don't think I'm crazy. So right here, that's 278.55. And then right below it, and that's where we closed out, is 276.31. Below it, we have 274.75, and then really it's the gap fill that I'm after. So the gap fills at 271.67. So we'll see how this plays out. I will say that it did have a double top on the hourly, and I think that's should come to fruition. One thing to take note though is when you do see a double top on the hourly, you're not going to get a total trend reversal. You're just going to get a pullback. Again, really good clean levels. Like you can step back here for Microsoft and look at this 290 mark and see multiple layers of respect here. So good clean levels both up and down, and good targets both ways. I probably won't play Microsoft, but Microsoft to over, and I'll mark this out again. Microsoft over 283.20, and you also have this hourly 9-day moving average. This little space right here might be difficult to move through, but ultimately that's where I would be looking for Microsoft to move to the upside. So let's see. You guys know the deal. Toxic, as per usual. I tell people if I'm getting into BABA and you are a risk adverse person, just ignore anything that I say. But it does have a good setup, and you guys are probably going to be surprised. I'm actually looking at it to bounce, and so I might be playing BABA to the up or the downside. The one thing about BABA though is it will gap and totally ruin your setup. So if you think you know where BABA's at, oops, I didn't mean to jump to the weekly. Make sure that you think again, because it will gap down and change trend. So it is up against a pivot point on the daily, and it did see this what you could perceive as a hourly flag. So this is, if you're looking at, okay, what does a weak bearish candle look like? And why am I looking for a weak bearish candle? Well, if I'm a bull, I want to see a higher time frame candle close weekly, right? With either low volume. I will say that the volume on BABA pushing down was relatively high, but the candles and the price range don't really represent that high volume, which tells me that buyers and sellers were both present to the up and the downside on lower time frames. But that being said, I'm going to be watching it over $98 into the $100 mark. And if it does push above 101.75, we will look to take BABA possibly up to the 105 mark. If it does not, and if it gaps down, I'm going to totally ignore it and move on with my life. Last one. And I'm going to keep my change list. My watch list will change before tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow's live. I think that I'm unbanned on TikTok tomorrow. No problem. I think that I'm unbanned on TikTok. I made a video. I sent it to Manny. I've gone unhinged. I did a Joker video addressing TikTok. So that's going to be the first thing that I post. I'm probably going to get banned again, so don't look for me tomorrow. Anyway, so Nvidia in my channel. And it just has a little bit more to offer. A $10 move to the downside, 175.34, based on my support and based on the nearest support that it has, 178. So here's the deal: when I mark out a long target, that's the long target. There are going to be bumps in the road on the way. I do anticipate 180, obviously, psychological number. You also have a little micro 176, 66, and 175. But I do think that based on this rejection here off of the top of demand, that you are likely to see further downside. Now, one thing that I want to talk about, because I know that the last 2 weeks we have seen pretty solid movement to the downside, and we have been able to, especially in the premium Discord, just because I haven't been able to be on, live on all platforms. We've been doing really well with that volatility. But here's the thing: when you hit, okay, so let's look at it this way. Let's go back in time. So look at Nvidia, and I'm only saying this because I want you guys to always be prepared for the opposite of what you are thinking to happen, and what can happen. And that's really our job. And when we're doing analysis, we want to know where we are at in the grand scheme of things. So that being said, I want you to look back here into the beginning of April, and you'll notice off of a strong rejection of resistance and just days and days of dumping, you get this small red day, you get a complete engulfment, and most people would say it's absolute, it's got to go to the downside, but not so fast. The next day you sit flat. The next day, complete engulfment. The next day, a bounce. Why is that happening? That is what happens at support, right? And I said that, I think, at the beginning of last week because we weren't moving as well. And I'm going to say it again this week. If you think again, because and it's all I'm saying is prepare. So like Nvidia, right? 183.14. I wouldn't take a weekly out, right? I would either get in beforehand. I mean, it's Monday, so you might be able to get away with a weekly scaling in and preparing for that drop, but you need to have a plan. And this, when you get into areas like this on the chart, that's when you're going to find that a lot of people struggle, because the people who do not have plans all of a sudden are exposed because they don't have stop losses, and they're the emotions from last week are bleeding into this week. So I give you guys my watch list and also a lesson hopefully behind it, and some perspective as far as what could happen in this area. So that's going to be something I'm going to be looking for. And if we get small gap downs going into tomorrow, that's another thing that we're going to be not as short positioned people possibly, or if you are short, that's not what you want, right? If you do get a gap down, you want it over 2%, but if it's a small gap down, you're almost guaranteed to bounce. And then you look at rejections at the yesterday, the previous day's close, Friday's close, and then finding your next resistance there, and then doing your higher time frame analysis, 15-minute candle analysis. So but anyway, that's about it from me. FOMC is Wednesday. I will be playing some earnings. We've got a lot of data. We've got a lot of earnings. So we could get and have another great week. And we could move through these supports like butter. But I say all this just so that you guys spend the time tonight to mark these levels, whether you're using lower time frame pivot points. I don't care what you're doing, but as long as you're putting in the effort, to set up some type of plan for yourself, because once that plan works, you just took the next step forward into trading by yourself, which is ultimately my and the rest of our team's goal. So with that being said, nice. Big Stepper and me are both going to be watching Nvidia tomorrow, so look for that. But other than that, if you guys would like just the $ and your request, one at a time, and please no repeats. But if you guys want to drop your request there in the YouTube chat, I will take a look at that. So, not a problem. Yeah, Big Stepper's got to be in, so you know we're finna hit it. Um, I think I saw a couple of and again, I just did Nvidia, so I'll just elaborate a little bit further. Nvidia had a pretty stern rejection, and this is the thing. Okay, let's dive a little bit deeper and also complete this request at the same time. So here's our support, right? We're on the hourly time frame. We have one, two, three candles showing that respect that we're looking for. And then at the top, right, we have the first initial bounce that happens here. That's basically $200. One 198 50, I think is what I said. But this level right here, multiple rejections. You do see a little wick up there to 201, but ignoring that and looking at the body candle closes, 199.75 is the top. So if you get a candle close like this, right, and you engulf, and let's say that hourly candle in the first part of the day closes above and pushes past 189, if you're catching that bounce, that's where the expirations being long work out in your favor, and you can trade these boxes. You can grab and add weeklies at the crossover of the 9-day moving average. But that being said, a lot of the times when you're trading in supply and demand, things are tough because of just you're in an area of high volume. If you look at the volume profile, you're looking at it and you can see it right here. Look at all of the volume here in comparison to here, right? You don't get that much volume when you're falling in comparison, obviously, because there's more trading action here. But that just makes for no, I wouldn't say more difficult trading, but you just have to have a plan. So marking out a couple of different key levels in NVIDIA's I think you can always do this. You can always take, and I'm going to change the color of these lines so that these are a little bit clearer for you guys. So the white lines are going to mark out the box, right? And that's just what I call it to make it easier. And then always in the middle of that box, you're going to have a 50% mark, usually dead slap in the center. This is 192. You're going to have another level. So that's oftentimes the level that you can look for, right? So when you bounce here and you break above 190, 135 and 192, you can look for the next trip up to 199.98. So, but anyway, that's NVIDIA, and we're going to be looking for 183.50. It's really simple. Candle close, push below it. Watch for a fake out at 182.50. There's always a chance for a wick, right? Just because nothing is always going to be immediately straightforward. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be watching for on NVIDIA. So let's see. Um, F Baba. Michael Frost, I feel like I've passed off my Baba curse to you, dude. Don't develop a toxic relationship with Baba. All right. So let's see here. Roku might actually have a pretty. Let's go to the daily. Start on the daily first. So this is really interesting. You do get a really clean rejection. It's 102. They did have earnings, I believe. So you should be looking for a continuation as far as volatility is concerned, in my opinion. But that being said, Friday closed with a rejection off of that 102, 101.75. You nearly closed the entirety of your gap. But at the same time, if you look at the hourly time frame, you do have what I could say kind of is set up like a bull flag. That being said, if the hourly candle that opens here, I would be looking for a big bounce off of $88. If that hourly can, so what I could be expecting tomorrow is red to green. So a small gap down, maybe initially going in straight for that support, bouncing, and then candle close to the upside. So I'm going to give enough with my predictions. But as far as levels are concerned, it's going to be 88, just like I said, the level to bounce. So look at 87.90, right? 87.90 to the downside. And then let's go back down here. Let's see. The bottom right there is 86.63, and then 84 even. If you do break 84, then I would say $80 is obvious. It's a psychological number, and ultimately where you would likely bounce. That being said, one more thing to point out here is oftentimes these resistances that you think don't or won't end up being valid. One thing that I like to point out and remind people, let's look over here. This is a great example. Do you see how far away we are from this orange line? This is the 200-day EMA, right? We are really far away from it in this moment, right? We just like a magnet, it pulls it right back in. So here might not be as far as we were here. And maybe we can afford a little bit more downside and see that $80 bounce. But ultimately, I think that you'd see the 200-day moving average retracement. Now, one thing that I could argue that with is the fact that you may or may not. So moving averages will continue to move as a stock builds supply or builds demand. So if you were to, let's say, use the 101.63, so I'm just going to pull this down. So 101.63, and I mean, that's a pretty wide range, but you could bounce in this range as this 200-day EMA catches up. But with that being said, instinctually, I would say that if you do see your initial pullback on Roku, I would like to see a bounce. And if we go red to green on Monday, I would be looking for a play above 95. So above 95 with good volume, because you still have earnings bleeding over. Maybe a slide in Netflix is, and again, different streaming platforms, different business models, but they do run together oftentimes or apart. But you could look for Roku to benefit off of that. So next one that I have, make sure that you guys are setting alerts. So if you're asking me for levels, and I'm not saying what you have to do, but if you're marking them out and setting alerts, and then going and looking at like, okay, why is this dude telling me that this is a level to watch for? Because if I give you the level, that's great. But if you don't know why it's a level, that's not good. So, make sure that obviously we're looking at the wick, the rejection, the multiple taps right here. You also see a bunch of chop in this range. So that's obviously why we have that there. So Tesla. I don't know why I didn't mention that, but I will be watching Tesla this week. Mostly because, and I feel like I've kind of goofed. Yeah, I am 100% going to be watching Tesla this week. So if you're trading Tesla this week, I will be trading with you, more than likely. But that being said, I have been absolutely tearing Tesla up, down, all around. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys remember Monday, me and Manny, we it's never a real bark, but he was like, "There's no way Tesla fills that gap." But with Amazon and all those bad earnings, I just was like, "Man, the market, there's no way we're going up." So we held that YOLO on Friday, and a lot of people we banked off of that Tesla put play. So, but that being said, we're at the 15-minute pivot. And we can go to the hourly time frame as well, and see that we are getting close to things like the whole ribbon indicator. But most importantly, we're getting close to 850. So we're sitting around 870, and this is definitely a place that we could bounce. And I think that whether or not we gap up or down is going to have a lot to do with that. So if Tesla gaps up and we push up above 195 and past $900, more than likely, I would expect for Tesla to at least make a run up into the two 920s at least. And I'll mark out these levels really quickly for Tesla. So right there, look at the bodies, these candles, wick, body, wick right there. The first initial candle, we caught that candle, by the way. Gosh, that was euphoric, to say the least. Tesla was euphoric, and we've played this up and down. But um, and then the bottom. Now, I don't want to mark it all the way down there, but I would say that this was a little area of a little zone, but then ultimately that. And this is a correction, a fake out. Um, I'm not I'm not gonna call one. So 123. It's important to pay attention to where things bounce. 123 is not a psychological number, right? Not even really 827. But if you go up, 835 is, 830 is. And that's ultimately where that zone is. And then mathematically speaking, if you're looking at the center and the top, and then move that down, that is, yeah, that is equal. So, that being said, I would look for Tesla to possibly bounce maybe around the 850 range. That's the first uh, obvious level. It's 850. But anywhere below 850, take a step out to this daily time frame and look at Tesla. So even though we've been trading it, if up and down, it feels like it's just at like been it has been nuts. But crazy enough, every single body of these candles has closed with the tops at around 900 and the body candle closes around 875. So and it's beautiful to see this analysis come to fruition because if you guys don't remember, and I got to start posting more video ideas for y'all, and I will get to that. But these levels that we discussed previously, those levels are exactly where we're building right now. So everything on Tesla is saying sell, sell, sell. The volume is high to the downside. Elon Musk is being a dingus. But when you think that it's time to sell, when everybody is bearish on something, that is oftentimes when the strongest buyers come in and reverse the trend. So that being said, please be on your toes because resistance for Tesla is all the way up here. My whole ribbon indicator is all the way up there. My 9-day moving average is all the way at 950. All of my moving averages are at 965. So that being said, if we're not going to sit in this range until they catch up, more than likely we're going to go and meet with them. So I would say that there is even the possibility with a green week this week, we do have FOMC to see a potential retest of the 870, 850 level. So, but ultimately that would come with a bounce. So, what app am I watching my stocks on? This is Trade Station or Trading View. Sorry. But Tesla looks great. I really like this setup. All right. So, um, I I have not been able to trade this, but I have signaled several times for mRNA to continue to the downside. It was unfortunate this one retested 150, but the beautiful thing is it rejected. Hold on. Oh, God, gravy. Um, oof, sorry, pollen. Uh-oh, I got another one. I'm not gonna get away with just one sneeze. Oh my God, that one cracked my back. All right. Sorry about that. Anyway, mRNA, I always talk about the anytime you get near it, it's 130, 131. The nearest support after that, after you lose 131.50, I think there's a small gap down there. No, there's not. But 130 obviously is a key level for mRNA. Below that, you have the 121.63, and if you step out here to the daily time frame, you can see how strong that level it is. 122.50. 122.50 is big. 1, 2, you even have the top of a zone, so don't sleep on that. Look right here. So you see where you stay below, bounce. You do get a little fake out there, bounce. But based on everything I see here for mRNA, it looks like it might go into support, which is interesting, right? You're going into earnings and you've hit one of your supports. So I'm actually really interested to see what mRNA does. It is actually entirely possible, y'all, to see mRNA gap up. Maybe I play mRNA this week, see it gap up at 170 and then pull off a head and shoulders, right? Because ultimately you can't change the trajectory of the or the coronavirus. Ultimately, it is going down. I know that it's rising, but in the grand scheme of things, it seems as if it's continuing to wind down. And so demand will be down. And I think that, they may, I'm not sure what guidance was last time, but if they lowered their guidance last time, they might be able to hit guidance this time, but ultimately, um, maybe future guidance isn't nearly as strong. We'll see. But mRNA does have a relatively interesting setup with the nearest support around 120. So is Potter in suspensions? Suspensions? Oh, suspenders? I am not. Do I look like I'm in suspenders? That would be some epic shit, wouldn't it? Maybe I should invest in suspenders. I should invest in a comb, but I don't really do that. We just wash it. What? Sorry. Hair tips here. All right, so we got mRNA. Let's take a look at PayPal now. Okay. I think I see what's going on here. Pretty easy. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. So we're in a channel. Looks like you might. Okay, so in a downtrend, oftentimes what always happens is you're going to hit support, bounce, reject. And even if that is a support that you will bounce and reverse on, it doesn't usually bounce immediately. Oftentimes you will see, because just like the upside guys, they want you to chase down, and they want to reaffirm your convictions that the market is going to continue to fall. I'm just saying that PayPal is getting really close to the support. Now, I do have a general rule of thumb that I'm looking at 3 taps of support and I could see a break. That doesn't always hold true inside of channels like this, but this is interesting to see. Now, once I find my dynamic setup, which means my horizontal lines and stuff like that, we're going to set these vertical lines. I think I just mixed myself up. Um, you guys know what I mean. So once we get the dynamic set up, and we get these dynamic resistances and support set up, we're going to get these linear resistances and support set up. So obviously we've got levels right here with the pivot point at 108. And this level right here where you see 1, 2, and then you see the retest, that's a great level to look for a long. And that is going to be 95 at the top. So 95, and then you have I wouldn't say a straight shot. And this is again just that 50% level coming in hot. Look at that. So right there on PayPal, this setup is actually pretty cool. and whether or not it goes up or down. So anywhere below $80, PayPal's a goner. Um, but look for this one to bounce at $80 or 80 somewhere in that range, and then give you a possible really strong wick to the upside. So I like PayPal for it's at support, and anytime something's at support or getting close to support, I'm looking for a bounce. So um, now that we have the higher time frame setup, it's really good to move forward. Take a look at the lower time frame setup. That way we can, if you're too zoomed in, zoom out. If you're too zoomed out, zoom in. So right here, you can see that we closed the day on Friday at 75. Right here, it's an obvious smaller, lower time frame level. Macro 87.85. So looking at the same levels that we had breakouts from and where our 9-day moving average is, I would say, and it's easy psychological number, back up above 90 and 92. The pivot point here for the hour is 92.50. So these two levels above you, and I'm going to add alerts to these because I might actually keep an eye on PayPal for a potential swing trade because this looks good to begin a potential uptrend. Um, yeah, I would actually say it does look pretty good to start an uptrend here. Hold on one second. I'm gonna leave these lines here, guys, and I'm gonna send myself $100 if it stays inside of it. So look for a bounce and maybe a push up to $96.65 on PayPal. Very rarely do I throw lines out like this, but very rarely do wicks like that go uncounted or untested, I guess, if you will. So suspenders are best kept secret. I mean, if you want these to be suspenders, um, they're whatever. I'll wear whatever. Wait, hold on. Let me think about how I word this. Then it's on tape. Never mind. All right. All right. So we got PayPal, F Baba always. Roku already did that one. Spy. All right. So I spy with my little eye the Fed selling around here for um, virtuous regions. No, I'm just kidding. Personally, I do have a top resistance here that I believe is still unchecked. I also have still kind of eyeballing this. So I think, and I know you guys might think I'm crazy, but when I see things like this, my eye gravitates naturally towards wicks and bounces, extraordinary bounces. And when they have a natural angle to them, I definitely start to pay attention to them. And then I go and start looking for confluences. And what that means is I'm looking for intersections and key levels with that dynamic line. So I'm looking long on SPY, when I'm giving this analysis. So we're going to mark out a couple of like major levels, and I think it's a good time to do so. Um, so here's the current setup in its entirety. You are currently with SPY. It doesn't look like that you tapped support entirely. So you might, and let's go down here just to verify. Okay, so you have just a little bit further, which is 410 50. That's the next level that I see for SPY. 410.50 and 409.55. Those are humongo levels that you're opening up a Monday on. So that is something to keep in mind seriously. One thing also to take note of is you did have this, what appears to be, and I think I did mention something like this, but what appears to be your dynamic support. So this level, guys, I don't think is a joke. I think that you bounce around 406.60 to 408 or 409.60 to 409.30. And then from there, if everybody's short, coming in from last week, or if people double down on that short position going into the day, you could see a mini squeeze and a push back up into obvious levels like 418, maybe even going and hitting this imaginary resistance that I've drawn, just out of speculation. But ultimately, this is what I see from SPY. So that's yeah, we'll see what happens. If you gap wherever we gap down, I'll go over it in the morning, and we'll see where we go from there. So, um, let's see. Sorry, my eyes lose track of things sometimes. I lose track of where I'm at on the chart or on the chat. Okay, so again, let me talk again about building and what you can expect. AMD is at a major zone. All right, so let's find that zone and mark it out so we're well aware. There's 83, that's 84 bucks. And then right here, that's 87. And so the range that you're at now is the 85 or 84, excuse me, to $87 range, with obviously the median being 85. So you're truly hovering around $85. Um, Below $85, you've got levels, and this is maybe a little bit more choppy, but you have levels like 82.60 that you may see a bounce at. But I would say, and this is where, guys, this week, I'm just going to make a wild prediction, not a wild prediction. I would say the statistically very probable. Most people are going to lose money this week if we chop, if we build, if we do not break range. This will be a week where people, imagine trading something like this. It is difficult. And so, that being said, guys, stick with what has momentum. But with things like AMD, you want to let it move and get out of its box. I thought that was a message. So that being said, the top right there, pivot point, that's 91.33. Multiple projections off of that going into Friday. You've got another level at 88.30 or 88.11. And you're getting near support, which is again 84.20. So look for a bounce on AMD at 84.20. If you do not get a bounce at 84.20 and you get a solid candle close with good volume to the downside, then there is obviously the continuation for AMD to the downside. But this thing has had a horrendous drop going back to April 1st. So for the entire month, you pretty much started off terrible, around 113, and then now sitting around $85. So it may be time just simply for a bounce before going forward. But I don't know. Looks like things are the steamrolling to the downside. So based on my dynamic support here for AMD, y'all, I would say AMD below $84. There's a good target at 81.25. So 81.25 on AMD to the downside, and then again to the upside, look for a bounce. You could go long above 88 to look for that resistance hit at 90.85. So. All right. Suspenders are good secrets. Um, Intel. I'm gonna do Amazon. you asked, but okay. So Amazon was the one stock that now I almost feel like I should leave it alone. You know what I mean? Because after what we did to it and the amount of money we made, guys, that was a just doesn't happen a lot, right? But that being said, we just broke a huge, huge support for Amazon. Huge support for Amazon. That is the $2,700 level that we were sitting on since basically January. So all year, we've spent, making this crazy setup on Amazon, and it looks like we are now at the top of a new range. So let's go step back a little bit and mark that out. So right here, the top is 2470. The bottom is 2250, and the median is 32 or 2350. 2350. So 2250, 2360, and 2480 85 for Amazon. And based on where we're at, we have look at the candle close. Do you guys see that? So it's really impressive stuff when something closes like that. So yeah, from here, now that we know where we're at, we know that we're at the top of our demand zone, right? So this zone right here, the beautiful thing is once we recross and move to the downside, we start targeting, and look, my pivot points there, I was off a little bit. We start targeting that middle line. That is now the next level to the downside. Now, one could be ballsy, and once you get the rejection you're looking for, because don't sleep on a potential reversal and gap fill, because that gap fill, right, would just ultimately give you a retest, because when the ceiling becomes the floor or the floor becomes the ceiling, obviously sometimes you got to go patch that hole before you continue to fall further. That was a different metaphor, but you get it. So 2700, there is the possibility for a retest. There is the possibility for gap fills. But at the same time, we are offered really, really clean and respectable levels on Amazon. And I think that the downside, you obviously see right here, I would say to the upside, 25.25. To the upside is where you could expect for Amazon to possibly go and retest. And there is one dynamic here that you have to also consider is Amazon is going to split, if I'm not mistaken, relatively soon, and that dynamic, when it kicks in, will send Amazon up considerably. I think that Amazon could have one of these type days all the way through a gap once that sentiment starts taking over. So do not forget that that is something that may, I wouldn't say the markets could rally on, but when the markets do rally, it's something to consider. So anyway, Amazon at the moment, yeah, 4 hour candle close is a doji. So watch Amazon, like I said, above 25.25 to the upside, and you've got that key level, excuse me, I'm sorry, 25.32. 25.32. And then you've got 25.60. That's where you could really look for that long. So all right. Do I have any ideas? I already got that one. So I'll go over Microsoft. It's on my watch list. And again, so we took a badass play. I think a couple of people actually took Microsoft. I don't know if anybody saw this setup. I dropped this into the chat. Microsoft broke its trend line, absolutely plummeted, left that 278 level, and then tapped that median line to 276.50. I want to see 275, 85, and 275 even, just to the downside period. Microsoft has a gap that it needs to fill. The candle close for Microsoft was at 270.22. That is also just a key level for Microsoft. Excuse me. Oh, get tired. Um, Damn, it's only 8:42. We get to go to bed early. Um, anyway, Microsoft is in the box. Okay. The dreaded box. But that being said, let's step back really quickly and go look at where we're at. So this level where we see multiple bounces, once you lose that level, you have a nice drop down to 270. So I'm still thinking that we gap fill and we see Microsoft hit that 270 level. Of course, we're going to find out here shortly if there is a support level that we missed. Hopefully it's something, it's not something like that, or I don't know. Um, yeah, I doubt it, but actually now that I look at that, that kind of looks a little bit scary. Um, but anyway, that's what I'll be looking for on Microsoft. And again, above 280, if you're in a short position or if you're anything like that, there is the possibility for a push to the upside for another type of resistance. But ultimately, I'm looking for that 275 level to get broken on Microsoft. Give you that 270, it's 72, and then ultimately that 270. FOMO time. All right. Snap. Mm, what a one. All right. Um, this chart is ugly. Okay. All right. So this one's pretty, I don't know. This seems like a no-brainer to me, but Snapchat, excuse me. You've had three bounces or three hits of support. You take a step back and look at Snapchat. You're obviously at the bottom of this gap, but you do have levels below you at like which you've already hit. You already hit $26. So ultimately, I'm thinking that Snap might see itself down, and I'm looking here. I mean, obviously you have the gap at 24.25. That's obvious, and I think that's the next stop for Snapchat. And I think it's worth setting an alert at like 26.70 and other spots like that because this is definitely a good downside play potential, especially with some time behind it. But yeah, I would say 24 even is a good place to watch for Snap to the downside. Um, Honestly, when you see this kind of setup, it's not improbable for it to bounce. It's just the likelihood drops a lot. Um, this could be a triple bottom, and here's what you have to ask yourself. Okay, it's not you can't go into a setup like this and think, all right, well, if it does this, then this. There is a mental or how do I there's a sentiment aspect to it that you have to be aware of, right? Is there any catalyst to the upside for the entirety of the market? I don't think so. Rollman doesn't think so. Most analysts don't think so. But oftentimes, when everybody is looking down, sometimes they come in with something that sends stuff to north. And that will catch people with their pants down. And so we don't want to get caught that way. And so at areas when people are bold, we'll let them be bold. But it's usually right. So a lot of people lose money here. But when you break levels like this, that's usually when you flush. And that's when we come in, or when we pile in, getting ready for that inevitable flush. Especially when you go down to the same support on a higher time frame for the third time, 28.24, and then ultimately 26.86 is where you could be looking for Snapchat to the downside. $25 is a psychological number that I would obviously be watching for a bounce at, and don't be surprised if it comes and nicks you with a pretty gnarly bounce. Also, one thing to keep an eye on, I just saw this. There's this lower time frame downtrend that you did reject, but if you were to climb above $30.88, things may change. So, all right, VLO. Valero. So those of you guys who are not in the Discord, especially, and by the way, if you're not in the Discord, make sure to go scroll up in the announcements. We do have some changes coming, and we're cutting some things off in May. But Rollman has signaled VLO multiple times. The dude's an energy swing trader to the max. I mean, he swing trades all sorts of stuff, but as far as energy commodities concerned, he'll really rock your socks off. And he's an individual who's going to be grabbing contracts that don't expire, or that expire months from now, and he's holding, and he's had to teach people through this process that obviously not everything goes up overnight, but if you have patience, there is a form of trading that is less stressful than your day trading and your scalping and your stuff like that. So, but anyway, that has been a really good long for you guys. Those of you guys in the Discord, look at that move from his signal, because he called the bottom, and it dipped like this. I know you guys were red for a minute, but Valero ended up ripping to the upside. Anytime you break a old level, a lot of the times you got to go retest it. If you retest it, it's a test, and you fail it, then you will likely fall. So below 109, or really below 107.50, 107.50, Valero might have a case to the downside. There may be a pullback there, and that would likely bring you down to the 104 level. Once you break out, you're usually always going to retest the level that you broke out from. Same thing to the downside. So looking at Valero, I'm uh-oh, buffering. Oh, I'm not sure. Um, why do I have beef with Starboy? I don't have beef with him. He's just back on his bullshit. He's just back on. There comes a. I guess it's a perspective I can't like necessarily give to somebody, but when you're in a position like an educator or an influencer or whatever you want to call us, um, you have to. I don't know. I have a personal, not a responsibility, but like I feel like a small responsibility to show people the reality of things. And the reality of things is most people can't mentally handle the kind of losses, and the amount of people that get caught and thwapped on the way on his journey are they get eliminated from the process. So while he might win, there's a lot of people that lose, and they lose bad. And on top of that, when you start telling people like I'm going to start teaching this style, you can tell that that trader is euphoric and feeling like he might know more than he does. While I give the kid credit for finding good plays and stuff like that, I also discourage his form of trading. Always, um, That's good to know. Gold news. Um, but yeah, it's it is what it is, man. Um, I'm not really. I'm making money, and I'm doing it steadily. And the people who are learning from us are doing it on their own, and that's. I think that speaks for its. Not everybody, but there's we're proud of the number of people who have established themselves as traders and take their own trades. Anyway, with Valero, I think that if you hold that 110 level, that 109 level, I think Valero is good to go. And I think that 120 is likely your next step to the upside. But with that being said, this is not my sector or a place where I normally find myself trading. So I would encourage you to talk to Rollman to get a second opinion on that one. Sue him for defamation? Nah, he doesn't want that. I don't want that either. I don't want to court. And plus, his opinion is I know most people don't care about it. So, and the people who do are going to learn a lot of things the hard way. There's a journey. You know what? He's like a gatekeeper. He's maybe necessary. A lot of people, unfortunately, have to learn the hard way, and he's literally the hard way. Like he's just the guy at the front of the door that says, "Welcome to the hard way." So, yeah, I make more trades in my Discord. Um, Anyway, so let's go ahead and clear this chart out. Spy's already been done. Tesla's been done. Spy's been done. CLDX. At some point this week, go. Well, make sure you have permission where you do that. This looks like a massive bear flag. Who Celedex Therapeutics, right? Uh, Okay, so maybe a descending megaphone. So watch for a bounce at $28. But this is actually a really good setup. This is a good setup. I don't know. Shahid. This looks good. This looks shortable. Um, Now, before I get ahead of myself, I do see this as a potential bear flag ish broadening wedge. But don't sleep on, and again, this comes with the territory oftentimes of analysis. It does have the descending triangle look. So watch for, I still stand by the 2850 level. So watch for 2850. Yeah, AMC is a gatekeeper too. So, um, hold on a second. You guys should go check my Twitter. I had to tweet that out. All right. Cool. Yeah, good look on that one. I think both of these setups are bearish, regardless. All right, guys. CLDX looked good. The next one that I've got right now is CLX Clorox. Ugh. All right. So look at this key level right here. Bring this back. We've got 140, obviously. Above that, you've got 145, and you are in that zone now. So that's the beautiful thing. That's one beautiful thing you can be happy for, is that you do have a solid range in which you are trading in at the moment. That being said, I would say Clorox looks like, based on the current trajectory, looks like it's about to go and hit 140.50. Below 140.50 and below 138.13, that's where I would just say Clorox to the downside, 128. Um, and that's a big ass bounce off support. So it would be tough to break that entirely. But that would be where I would look for Clorox to go if you break that support. If you do not, and you do happen to bounce, you might end up playing off of what could be a potential inverse head and shoulders energy with the first leg down here, your shoulder, your head, and then if you do pull back and you do bounce at 143 or reverse off of 140, then I would actually be looking for Clorox to reverse the trend and possibly go and look at the 160s for a supply retest. So I was the guy who originally bought AMC calls that caused the squeeze. I would I'd love to see you have like uh, that's cool, but I don't know if that's crazy. I don't know if I believe that though. I don't know that how would you track that? How would you even know? I mean, I guess you could look at the OI or I don't know. That's crazy if you I mean if you initiated the squeeze, but um that's nuts. All right, all right, DMC. All right, well, that looks all right, we've got DE with Coors. Yo, DE looks like boiling garbage right now. Awful. As far as just where you're at. Let's see. Is that Thunder? Thunder. There you go, dude. Yo, this is super high probability Coors. Oh wow, that's awesome. Um, Yeah, Clorox is also a dinosaur, Chris. Try not if you're and make sure if you're trading dinosaurs that you have an expiration that can ride that slow train. So, Coors, I know you're finna crack one open on DE, man. And really, dude, that's he's another one in our Discord, by the way, guys. I'm always impressed. He comes out of the woodworks with some crazy swing trades. He's a great trader. Anyway, DE, you got beautiful consolidation here. So DE below 322. First level is going to be 366 and 363. Below that, you have a micro gap down to 360 and 358.77. But ultimately, I would say you have 350. So um, analyst from Performante. I don't know why I said that so badly. I I didn't buy AMC, but I did. I was. I know everybody knows about Roaring Kitty, right? Um, but wait, hold on. What was it? Yeah, GameStop. So I posted this November 23. Investments. So I am coming to you guys with a. I posted it November 23rd. So we and it was at $12.71. $12. And you know what my prediction was? You know where I thought it could go? Look at this. I'll show you guys. $60. I was aiming for GameStop to go to $60. This was before all of it. Nobody knew my name. I made a bag off of this thing, dude. I made a bag off of it. But I made a bag off of it technically, not squeezily. But that's my claim to fame. I did trade AMC while it squeezed, though. That was fun. All right, Hood, and then we're gonna go ahead and Garrett is actually DFV. Dude, I want to get back to making these videos, but yeah, yeah, crazy, crazy. Um, GameStop has a big ass flag, by the way. Take GameStop. I like 140 on GameStop. I'm gonna set some alerts on that one. Take calls over 132. Watch for a break over 140 and a pinch past 150. All right, let's go look at Hood and we'll call it a night. All right, Robinhood. So here's the deal. $10, $9.98. Yeah, one of those situations will come back again. So the thing with Hood, right? This was the box in which it operated and traded in. Oftentimes, guys, when there's a support, you can go look for something like this. You see where this heavy, heavy consolidation is? That's another level. That's 1088. That's where your wick off of is. So what happens is you open up, you fill your gap, and then you go and you push likely what was a mini squeeze. And then you go and you hit that 1088. But what the most important thing that happens here is that body closes underneath support. So you pushed all the way back down. So I would actually look for Hood. I mean, personally, I think this goes down to like $6, $7. Um, but yeah, I mean that's Hood as of right now. Hood anywhere above 1088 and $11. I could see Hood maybe giving you a little bit of squeeze. I fundamentally don't think that Hood's a great investment right now for myself. But I think in the future, if they change their ways, that could change. But you go look at any other brokerage, and they're not. But here you go. Actually, so I'm gonna quit talking. Take a look at that. That looks like a falling wedge. You might see Hood squeeze up past 1088, maybe go and hit resistance one more time, or maybe you break it. So anywhere below 897, look for continuation of the downside. But I will also mention this, that Hood is around the valuations that it's been given, and there are conflicting opinions on the stock. So with that being said, I would say that it could go into a period of heavy consolidation, and you might see it use this wedge type setup to do so. But anyway, that's it. It's 9 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Listen, if you had a rough week last week, it's over with. If you had a rough 2 weeks or a rough 6 months, it's over with. You're going to start this week and you're going to start doing it. Setting up those plans, setting up your entries, your exits, and your stop losses. And if you don't know how, you're going to figure out what you need in order to find those things, right? Pivot points, supply and demand. If you are just getting into the game and you don't know anything about supply and demand, I highly recommend that is a priority for you. And things like the strat, learning the strat, even if it's just listening to an audiobook or a YouTube, and getting a general consensus on what it is that's happening there. Yeah, we're going to have a good week this week. Even if we have a couple red days, they're going to be within our risk management. I'm just setting setting the tone here, but they're going to be small losses that are going to be easy to recover from because that's a part of the game. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful night, get rest, and I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Peace.